views expressed are those of hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of News Radio 1040 WHO.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to our Friday morning get-together. I'm Jan Mickelson. Later today, we're going to be talking with Congressman Steve King for a minute or two. He had a debate last night in Carroll, Iowa with Kristi Vilsack. I watched a lot of that. Just an amazing moment in Iowa political history. I've got some sound bites from that, plus some stuff got discussed and some terminology used that I'd never heard of before. And let's see. I want to play this for you just for a second. We're going to talk with Gerald Celente here in just a moment. I'm eagerly looking forward to that. He's just one of the best and brightest. We're going to see what he predicts about the economy and the political season. But I want to play you a soundbite. This is Kristi Vilsack last night.
To go into the drugstore down the street and fill a prescription for birth control pills, or go out to new opportunities and get some of the new long-acting reversible contraceptives at the local family planning clinic.
I had never heard of a long-acting reversible birth control thing before, and so I had to do some homework, and I'll let you know what I discovered. Let's see. The fella is the publisher of the TrendsJournal. And he has a finely honed snot gland. Gerald Celente, thank you for joining us this morning, sir.
Oh, Jan, thanks for having me.
I've read your most recent TrendsJournal. As soon as the medication wears off, I should be coherent again. My goodness. You were, how long, by the way, was this, when you write and sit down to write, and I suspect you have piles and piles of paper on either side of you that you've been scribbling on for the last several weeks, and then you sit down and then it all just comes out in about an hour and a half.
Boy, you know, I've been working with John Anthony West, who's renowned for his work. If you Google up Mystery of the Sphinx, proving that the Sphinx is 10,000 years older than currently dated by the water erosion. We've been working together since 1983. He's 80 years old now.
Right.
And we sit side by side every day, and we formulate how we're going to, we don't formulate, we go through the news, the current events, and see how they're playing out. And what I do each day is I read, for example, the New York Times, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, and all of the online information.
Right.
And I underline salient points from the newspapers that make the story, and always trying to make connections between different fields.
Right.
So that's the way we do it. And then we just start. It's really a labor of true love. The work that goes into writing that, you see, it's 48 pages.
Right.
And it's prose. It's not, just slopping down words. So that's the way we do it.
The interesting thing about this is I like the way you thread things together. I think you've come to a similar conclusion that I have, that you have special interest groups, moneyed interest groups, ideological interest groups, people who have been playing and pulling the chains of our political system maybe for more than a century. They have hedged their bets. They have players on both sides of the aisle. They are in the game on both sides of the aisle. Funding streams, ideological support, academic support, logistical support, and they play both sides. Is your conclusion similar to mine?
Yes, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in political religions. I don't bow to political gods. I began my career just quickly. I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County. And then they sent me up to Albany, the state capital, and I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. So I got to see things firsthand. I also taught at St. John's University, American Politics and Campaign Technology, and for several years worked in D.C. as a government affairs specialist for the chemical industry. So I'm not one of these guys, with a unicorn cat. I've been in the real thing. And one of our chief writers, as you see, is Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. So no, there's a new book out, a tell-all book that one of Joe Biden's former staffers wrote. It just came out.
Yes,
and I'm reading. You know about it, right?
Yeah, he just basically. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, he's saying how Wall Street controls both parties. And it's as simple as that. All of the too big to fail banks have gotten bigger. You know, we all grew up, and everybody out there listening knows the deal. We rise and fall on our own merits. Except if you're a member of the club. Hey, we're too big to fail. Oh, no, we can't fail. If we fail, everybody fails. Who made this crap up? And this is what they've done. It's a complete hijacking. When Henry Paulson began the TARP program, we sent out a trend alert. This is, of course, under Bush. Wall Street has hijacked Washington. D.C. takeover. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. It's money talks. This is not a democracy as I see it. They call it a representative form of government. We have a gang of 535. I love the language that they use. You know, as a former guy from the Bronx, what they call campaign contributions, adults call bribes and payoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And if in any other field, the people engaging in would be in jail.
Exactly. Oh, another one just came out. They fined, I think it was the Goldman Sachs gang, for pay to play. Pay to play? It's a bribe. You bribed a government official. You bribed it to get the job. But nobody's head rolls.
Or you get to stay in a Lincoln bedroom.
That's right, like John Corzine.
So if that's the case, I don't think anybody's going to give us a serious argument about that anymore. I mean, you've got the right wing observing this. The Tea Party people say, hey, this system is rigged and it sucks and it's stupid. Then you got the Occupy people saying this system is rigged, it sucks and it's stupid. They're saying basically the same thing, but then their prescriptions diverge radically. Their solutions radically to the right, or perhaps, or radically to the left. You have the Ron Paul solution: defund all of these buzzards, make them go home, and then you have the hard leftists, just blow them up and kill them. Solution and bury them under 6 feet of concrete. How are we going to fix this mess?
Well, here's a couple of things the Celente solution. One of them is I really believe in direct democracy. It's the Swiss system. And, Switzerland's not such a bad place. It's the richest country in the world. The food is great. Everybody has guns. They don't shoot each other.
But they also kind of got hustled by the internationals, though. So they're no longer the easy haven for the haven of last resort for both the people who would like to, the honest people who would like to preserve their assets, and the criminals who would like to preserve their assets.
Well, you're 100% right. They have bent a lot recently, but all in all, what it is when there's a major issue, the people vote on it. We don't have a gang telling us what we should think, how we should tie our shoes, and why we should believe them. And we're all intelligent enough to make our own decisions. And my line is this: you see it already with the scams going on about voter fraud. It's already happening. And my saying is, if we could bank online, we could vote online. They're moving trillions of dollars of money a day. I believe that we can have pretty safe systems that are better than the things we have now.
Yes.
To vote online. And whether it's 17 million people, 11 million people, or 100 million people, a vote is a vote.
I got Gerald, I got a text message and then a phone call the other day from my credit union that the only credit card I still have. And I've cut up all of them. You have to have at least one for some online transactions. So I keep myself limited at a $1,500 per year maximum, and that makes me pay it off every month, just so I don't have any debt. But I got this call the other day. He said, we are not sure, but we think that some of your account information could have been compromised. So therefore, we're going to issue a new card with new identifiers just to make sure that your financial liability and you make sure that your accounts are okay. Now, if MasterCard can intervene at that level over a few decimal points, and they do so with efficiency all over the globe, and they guard their customers against fraud and themselves against fraud. If they can, maybe we should just turn this entire process over to MasterCard.
Why not? They have it already. But really, we could. With this, the system is antiquated. It's not working. I have to say, this is the greatest leadership vacuum that I've ever witnessed in my life.
Is that your way of saying it sucks?
Yes. I'm not voting for a president this time. I refuse to.
I was going to ask you about that. Is this the first time you've done that?
Yes, everyone is saying virtually, we're voting for a lesser of two evils, as you see with the cover of the TrendsJournal. And it was my conclusion. I'm a political atheist, as I mentioned. I don't bow to political gods. And the God that I believe in, I believe would call it a sin if I voted for an evil, be it lesser or greater. What kind of country is this, that these are the best two men that we have to offer? We know what we're going to get. And people say, well, if you don't vote, then, you deserve what you get. No, if I vote, I know what I'll get. And I don't want either of them. And by voting for a minor candidate, that just encourages the system because we don't have a third-party candidate, a la Ross Perot, for example, got 19% of the vote, even though he did all these lunatic things during the campaign, where it's going to make any difference.
I think I can refute your argument.
Okay.
I can use an old argument. You remember Patrick Henry, of course. He was one of the people debating in the framing of our Constitution. And he was going up against the centralizers all the time. The Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were going at it. And we're still having the identical arguments today, Gerald Celente, about how much power we want to concentrate in government and upon whose view of human nature we're going to build this edifice. But late in the game, Patrick Henry said, hey, I smell a rat. And then he went home. Well, let's assume that he did smell a rat. And he went home. Who did he leave in charge? The rats.
Well, what I'm saying is we have to change this system. And my prescription is 40% or less. If 40% or less of the people turn out to the polls, we can then say this system is not working. We want something better. That we know what we're going to get. And I'll tell you my greatest concern, Jan, and I've written about this quite often. When all else fails, they take us to war.
Yeah, that's a scary thing.
And that's where we're heading. There's a world war going on, and people are not adding it up. There's a war in Yemen. There's a war in Bahrain. There's now a war brewing in Kuwait. Is uprising starting even to happen in Saudi Arabia? There's a war in Syria. There's a war in Libya. Oh, now they're talking about a nice new war in Mali from the wonderful events that happened, of course, in Syria, that wonderful humanitarian mission. Millions of people are taking to the streets in Spain, in Portugal, in Greece. The entire economic systems are under collapse. And as I said, you can follow the timeline. The crash of 29, Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. The panic of 08, Great Depression. There's depressions going on. Currency wars, they're heating up. Everyone's talking about them. And now, of course, they're talking about trade wars. The next thing is World War. And you know how they say that generals keep fighting the last war? That's what they're going to do this time, too. You could have all the jets and planes and everything else, submarines. This is going to be weapons of mass destruction wars. VMI brought me in 2000 to speak on New Millennium Warfare when I wrote Trends 2000. General Anthony Zinni was there as well. And I was talking about, back then, about what New Millennium Warfare will look like. It'll be hell. Life will not be worth living if these psychopaths continue to take us on this path. And if Iran is the next target, what we're saying is that's the beginning of World War III.
It would be one step at a time, conventional exchange. Would it be a chemical? Would it be a nuclear exchange? What does this look like in your worst-case scenario?
It's all of the above. When I wrote Trends 2000 in 1995, I began writing it. It was right after the Soviet Union broke up. And I'm finding all these reports about all of the black market weaponry, high-tech weaponry back then that was being sold, suitcase-sized nukes. We can't find 100 of them. On and on and on. And now it's escalated. So it's biological warfare. It's dirty bombs. It's suitcase-sized nukes. This is going out of control. When we see what's going on in Syria, this is a very sophisticated country. I got back from Berlin April 23rd. I'll never forget. It's the first time I was there. I looked at the city and I said, my God, this place had to be grander than Paris before it was bombed out. You see the remnants of beautiful old buildings and all new construction, wide boulevards. The place is gorgeous. Lights shining in everywhere, parks all around. These are the Germans, I'm saying to myself. In the 30s, they had to be the most sophisticated of the civilizations, and culturally, philosophically, scientifically. How could they let a two-bit freak destroy their country? And then, these are the Germans. And then I'm Italian. Not for nothing. Da Vinci, Puccini, Rossini, Caruso, and we eat better than the Germans. How could they let a cartoon freak like Mussolini destroy their country? So when I'm saying this isn't empty rhetoric. This is countries destroyed by madmen. And as I see it, we have an empty suit and a stuffed shirt that borderline, to me, on sociopath and psychopath that are going to be our next president.
Gerald Celente, I need to take a short time out. My guest is Gerald Celente. He writes and edits the TrendsJournal. He has this nasty habit of being right. And if you'd like to join us, you may at 284-1040 or 800-469-4295. Back in a sec. Gerald Celente is on our Newsmaker line. He's a publisher of TrendsJournal. Gerald, you should know we're in the middle of the political season, and they all these political ads. I hope you haven't lost the will to live since we've been away.
God, it's amazing. Jeez.
I'm so sorry. But I was looking at the New York Times this morning. Their headline is Iran said to nearly finish nuclear enrichment plant. They've got 3,000 centrifuges at a site called Fordo inside a military base near the holy city of Qum. Now, you write in your TrendsJournal about Ahmadinejad, and you don't have a high regard for that guy, obviously, and you think he's a dangerous guy. What should our response be, or should we have a response to this guy?
Well, again, if Israel attacks what we're saying, it's going to be world war. I mean, what are they going to? We've heard this rhetoric, by the way, once before. I remember with North Korea. My God, if North Korea gets a nuclear weapon, and they kept that one going. Here's a headline from Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper. With Lieberman at his side, Netanyahu's war cabinet is on a one-way track to Iran. Lieberman, of course, is the Likud party leader. And Iran has said, if they, and matter of fact, in that TrendsJournal, we have throughout it statements by Israeli defense chiefs, generals, former Mossad people, saying, don't do it. There'll be no end to this. So they're saying it. The politicians have a different agenda.
The different agenda is?
The different agenda is power. Eisenhower said it best. Any man that seeks the presidency is either an egomaniac or crazy. And this is a man that was sought for the presidency. And in my viewpoint, again, the motto of the TrendsJournal, taught to me by my dear father, may his soul rest in peace, is think for yourself. I don't tell anybody what to think. Anytime I'd repeat anything, he'd say to me in Italian, Papagallo, parrot, stop repeating what everybody else is saying. Think for yourself. So what I'm saying, Jan, is only the way I see it. And the way I see it is, when does Obama ever work? The cat's been on the campaign trail. This thing started in April of 2011. Romney has never stopped running. Most of these world leaders, to me, fit in the category of what Eisenhower said they're either crazy or egomaniacs.
Well,
And again, look at what the leaders do, as I mentioned, to destroy other countries, and have done it, and they're on the path to do it again.
It's interesting. People have asked me, usually media types who follow what's going on here in Iowa during our caucuses, and we're in the state of Iowa, we're in play against sort of the politicians are pretending to care for us because because we have six votes that are in play, and they're counting all the votes on their fingers and toes. And he said, well, who do you think is the best candidate for president? Who's most qualified? And my stock answer, Gerald, is there is not a single person on the planet who qualifies for that office the way the imperial nature of that office has derived. Because we expect that person now to be the white horse, riding the white horse that fixes everything. We've changed the view of government and Washington. Instead of being just a minor irritation in the background, now they're the focus, and they think they're the focus of everybody's lives, and we wait upon their every utterance to make our lives complete. And if that's the case, there's nobody qualified for that office.
Amen. You said it perfectly, because to me, as we wrote in the Trends Journal, people have to rise to the greatest heights within themselves and stop looking for other people to lead them. I love how in the debates when Obama goes into his commander-in-chief mode. Yeah, as the commander-in-chief. Neither of these two guys could fight their way out of a paper bag. And if anybody's going to play commander-in-chief, is the way I see it, get on the white horse and lead the charge. And then call for a war. When you go out on the front lines, then you can start talking tough. And one of my favorite lines of the whole night was when Obama said, I said that if I'd had Osama bin Laden in my sights, I'd pull the trigger. Oh, yeah, the rifleman, there he is, hunting down Osama bin Laden and pulling the trigger. This is kid stuff.
Well, here's my one thing. You're not going to vote at the presidential level, and I understand your reasons for that. But there are a lot of other races, and a lot of other issues that are being decided, other offices and ballot measures that are worth consideration. And there are some really decent people that are doing their best to fix things at the grassroots level. One thing I would fear is, well, if people are going to just write themselves off and not show up, a lot of those issues will go unresolved, and it will be like I said earlier with Patrick Henry. If the decent people stay home, the rats are left in charge.
Well, the rats are in charge now.
Not everywhere.
But the country is going down so rapidly. By the way, I have been considering exactly what you said, because people have been emailing me. There's different ballot issues. So, yeah, go vote for those. Do that. But for the presidency, I'm not going to vote. And again, by their deeds you shall know them. And the deeds of both parties, this country is on such a downward spiral. It's a shame. It breaks my heart to see what's happened to this great country. And as I said, when you look at the data and just add it up, we began this with the with talking about money controlling the operations. The too big to fails, what do you have? I think it's 7 banks that control 80% of all the action in this country. And by the way, what's going on when I'm talking about what's going on in the world, it's been a banking takeover. There is a new world order, and the new world order is the banking order. And you can see what's going on in Europe as we're speaking now. All of the countries are going to be losing their sovereignty. All the banking is going to be centralized in Brussels with a centralized bank similar to ours. And when you think about it, Jan, when is the only time that the Prince of Peace, Jesus Christ, becomes violent? To drive the money changers out of the temple.
Exactly. Gerald Celente, thank you for joining us this morning. The Trends Journal is reachable and obtainable how?
TrendsJournal.com.
TrendsJournal.com. Thank you for your time and expertise.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
You bet.
Bye-bye.